Hey there, this is Katie from the Health, Wellness, and Chocolate podcast, and I wanted to thank you for joining me. So today I want to talk to you about your potential, and I want to kind of give you a story because we have chickens, and I want to kind of, not that you're like a chicken, but I want to explain a few things about the potential of a chicken egg and how that relates for us and our weight loss. So I hope you enjoy my little story, right? So we hatched last year in our incubator about 20 eggs, and they are now grown chickens, and they live in our backyard, and we get chicken eggs from them every day. And it's really actually quite fun. And we homeschool, so it's great for my kids. They are able to gather up their eggs every day, and they have to feed them and water them. So it's like a great chore for them as well. And of course, they've had these chickens now, like they saw them hatch and be born, and they've gone through the whole life cycle. So for us, that was like a really fun experience as well. I was thinking about doing this class with you and talking about your potential and how in life there are 4 key areas of frustration where we have needs that aren't met. And as someone who is a yo-yo dieter or someone who has trouble with their weight, they'll use food to kind of answer those frustrations. So the common areas of frustrations are relationships, unmet needs, unfulfilled potential, or accumulated stress. So we've talked about unmet needs before. And so what I wanted to talk about today was this unmet potential, or this unfulfilled potential that we have inside of us. And it made me think of the eggs that we get every day because they are fertilized. And so they sit, when the kids collect the eggs from the chicken coop, they have what's on them called a bloom, and the bloom really kind of protects them. They don't need to go in the fridge like you would with a store-bought egg. They have a coating over them, and store-bought eggs wash them off, but when they're home chickens, we can leave them out on the counter. And here's like a really neat thing. You can leave your eggs out on the counter, and then say, I don't know, a couple weeks go by, and you might decide like, you know what, I think I'll put these in the incubator, and we'll hatch some more chicks. Or you can say, you know what? I'm going to crack them and I'm going to use them and I'm going to have some scrambled eggs, right? Like their eggs are just sitting there with all the potential in them to be whatever it is we want them to be. But until we are intentional and actually purpose to do something with the eggs, they just sit there. They're just eggs. But inside of them, they have all the potential they need to become what we want them to be. So inside those eggs, all the potential is there, but it requires intention and the right conditions. So they can just sit on the counter and eventually they'll become rotten and I'll have to throw them out. Or if I decide, let's hatch some more chicks, I can take those eggs, if they're fertilized, which mine are, and I can put them in an incubator. Now, the incubator requires the correct humidity. If the humidity is too high, they won't hatch. If the humidity is too low, they won't hatch. There's a certain, zone for my chickens, for the eggs, in order for them to turn into baby chicks. There needs to be, obviously, a certain amount of time has to go by, and they have to have the correct temperature, and they have to have the correct they have to be spun in a very slow way every so often. So if you just laid them there and they weren't turned, they wouldn't hatch either. Okay, so they're somewhat delicate, but there's certain conditions that need to be met in order for them to reach their potential. Because the fertilized egg, it has all the potential that it needs to have the chick come out of it and hatch, but it won't ever become anything unless you're intentionally making it become something, right? It's never going to become scrambled eggs unless your 2-year-old jumps up on the counter and throws it on the ground. Not that that's speaking from experience or anything like that, but you have to intentionally pick up the eggs, bring them over to the stove, crack them, scramble them, add salt and pepper, put them on the stove and cook them, right? You have to also be intentional about your scrambled eggs as well, right? They're never just going to sit on the counter and become that either. Now they will rot And if you do nothing with them, and then you'll have to throw them away because they'll decay and become bad. But if anything you want to do with them, it requires being intentional. It requires thought. It requires a bit of planning, and it requires some patience, and it requires a little bit of a plan in order to pull it off. Okay. Well, we all have potential inside of us, right? We have God-given gifts, talents, strengths, weaknesses, right? We have everything in us to be able to be effective in our lives, to be able to fulfill the potential that was put in us. And when we're not intentional, or when we're not paying attention, or when we're just kind of going through the day, just kind of reacting to the chaos around us and not actually being effective or intentional in our lives, it becomes a frustrating experience for us, okay? And then food basically becomes the thing that we use to fill in the gaps of that unfulfilled potential. Especially if you are someone who struggles with their weight, this very well may resonate with you quite a bit, okay? So we all have this zone of genius. Like, have you ever met someone, they could just pick up any instrument and just start playing it and they're amazing, right? And that's just, they're just phenomenal musicians, and it's just in them to be that way. There's some people who are just amazing chefs. They understand that their brain just kind of conceptualizes and understands the science behind it, and it's fascinating. My husband is an amazing machinist, where he operates in New York City, like huge machines, and he's very good at it, where I would crash into things. And I mean, he is amazing, where he can like move a giant machine only like an inch away from something else, but his brain can work so well in order to just not even brush against whatever other equipment might be in there. Like, he's phenomenal. It is amazing to watch him do that. It's so, like, everybody though, and as a mom, one of my jobs, I know, is to find the potential that's in my child and help them unearth it. Because I truly, truly believe we are all given gifts and abilities and strengths. And then it's our job as a parent to like help them uncover that, help them uncover their bend, help them discover their zone of genius. But I think what happens a lot of times as an adult is either you forget it, or life gets in the way, or those obligations, they just kind of get your potential, it just kind of gets buried under the strain and the stress and the day in and day out of everyday life. But because of that, you become frustrated. And then food really becomes this consolation prize for this unrealized life. And it may not even be conscious that you're doing it, but if you find yourself saying to you, well, when the kids go to bed and I could sit on the couch and have my cup of tea and have chocolate, I deserve it because that's the best part of my day. Or I'm not going to stop going out to lunch at work because that is the best part of my day. It's the only good thing about my day, right? If you find yourself saying things like that, then this might be a big frustration point for you. And this actually might be helpful for you to listen. It leads to frustration because you're never fully realizing or using what's inside of you for what your gifts are. Just like an egg, if it's not used, it just rots. And in a way, we're the same. If we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing and we're not working in our potential, we kind of rot and wither. And that leads to so much frustration with us. So, food, like I said, food becomes this consolation prize for this unrealized life. So maybe there's things that are going on in your life, like, it could be fear. Fear could be holding you back from realizing your potential or from fulfilling that potential in you. Are you afraid of failing and looking like a fool? And so really, eating is not only comforting, but it keeps you almost stuck and almost in the place of like, not like, I'm not going to try because I'm afraid of failing, but extra weight can stay on my body, so I have an excuse not to try. Okay, so check and see if that statement resonates at all with you. Like, I'm afraid to fail, or I'm afraid to be humiliated, or I'm afraid to look stupid. And even if you might not realize it, like, food will help distract you and make you feel better. But also, like, you know what? I'll try that once I lose 10 pounds. And then you conveniently never lose 10 pounds or 20 pounds or 50 pounds or whatever, like whatever you attach to not doing whatever that task is. If you attach, like, I'll lose weight, or once I lose weight, I'll go do X, Y, or Z. And then conveniently you never lose the weight, or inconveniently, but you never lose the weight, so you never try, but then you also never fail. And so you've like secretly, unwittingly, protected yourself from failing and looking like a fool, which is what you were afraid to do in the first place. Okay. Now there's also relationships. Are you afraid of rejection? Okay. So there's unmet potential there as well, right? So maybe you keep extra weight on as a barrier to protect yourself against the fear of being rejected. It's easier to have someone reject you because of what you weigh, as opposed to them just not liking you, right? It's so much, it's like easier to be rejected for a physical attribute, as opposed to like maybe the core or the essence of who we are. And so rather than actually facing that idea, we just keep the extra weight on and use that as every excuse. Like, I didn't get the raise because I'm too fat, or, I'm not going, he didn't want to date me because he didn't like my body, or whatever. Instead of like, my personality is really crappy and that's why they didn't want to date me. Or, I'm actually a really terrible employee, but it's easier to say I'm fat and not got that raise because of that. Okay. So check yourself with that as well. Like, are you, not fulfilling your potential and you're hiding behind that extra weight because of it? Maybe you're afraid of social situations, and it's easier to say, I'm not going to do that, or I'm not going to go out, or I'm not going to try, or I'm not going to put myself out there because of my weight. Or once I lose this last 10 pounds, then I'll start dating again, or whatever. But it's like an excuse we use so we don't have to keep going. All right. And food is also a distraction for an unrealized life. Extra weight can be used as a barrier and a protection for an unrealized life that's filled with fear, like I just showed. I gave you some examples of. But do you even know what your unrealized potential is? A lot of times, especially with moms, we may have had dreams and stuff growing up or in college, and even had a career for a while, but then, life gets in the way. And we're busy raising our kids, or, just whatever it is we do. And we kind of lose who we are, or the essence of who we are. And that unmet potential, or that unfulfilled potential, is in us. And it may be frustrating to us. And we might not understand, why life feels frustrating until we kind of examine it, right? And examine the life that we're living, and ask ourselves things to kind of get out of that rut. We might have just created this rut in our lives, and we might just feel like it's unsatisfying. And so maybe food is the only satisfying thing in your life, but you can't quite put your finger on like, well, what is unsatisfying about my life? Like, what would I want to do even if I could do it? Like, I don't even know, right? So, it's your job as an adult, if you feel stuck in this area, to kind of like come up with what that unfulfilled potential is that you have, and then how are you going to fill it up without using food? There's a few questions I wrote up to kind of go over with you right now, so that you can ask yourself. Take time to really think about it, maybe write them down, even downloading your thoughts onto a piece of paper with what you come up with that these questions may trigger, right? So like the first question is, how well do you know yourself? Do you know, and here, this is actually a really good question to like, and actually almost study yourself, not in a weirdo kind of self-absorbed way, but just as a way to help you get out of your frustration. When you diet chronically, you typically eat food that other people say you should eat, and in portions other people say you should have. And then when you finally do allow yourself to eat something you think you would want, you tend to gobble it down because you feel guilty, right? And you almost don't even taste it. One of the things I want you to start challenging yourself with is, if you give yourself permission to eat, actually sit and really take time to taste the food, and ask yourself as you're eating it, like, do I even like this? And I've talked about this before when I would get Dairy Queen. My husband, I always liked the blizzards, and I'd get a big blizzard and we'd sit on the couch and I would eat it. And I loved it. But like there was no blizzard big enough to satisfy me. And I'd always feel like I was still like, I could have eaten more and more. Like if it was an endless bottomless blizzard, it would have been heaven for me, right? Like there was never enough blizzard to go around, right? So I just always felt like that blizzard was like, I was trying to fill up my life with that blizzard. And once I learned these tools that I'm kind of going over with you right now, I had let myself have another blizzard, and I learned how to sit and eat and taste and savor food and like kind of evaluate it and make sure I really even liked it. Like give yourself permission so there's no guilt, and then actually taste what you're eating rather than gobbling it. And I was shocked. It didn't taste good. Like the blizzard was warm. The ice cream wasn't really cold. Like it just was so unsatisfying. And I was stunned. I'm like, I cannot believe that I'm throwing this out because I really just don't like it and I don't want the calories. I'm not going to just eat it for the sake of eating it. I was stunned because I wasn't throwing it out with like wailing and gnashing of teeth and crying like, I want this, but it's not good. Like, it wasn't like that at all. It's like, this doesn't even taste good. This is so unsatisfying. I can't believe I actually thought it was amazing. But now that I'm actually allowing myself to be conscious and present and actually just sitting here and eating it without guilt, just trying to enjoy it, it doesn't even taste that good. I was stunned, beyond stunned, right? And it was like, I wonder what else is like that then. It was such a revelation to me. But it's like, so how well do you know yourself? Like, do you even know your favorite foods? Do you even know what your favorite color is? That was a good one too. I was like, I don't know. I never thought of it before. I used to know when I was little, but I don't know if I know anymore. But when I did this is my favorite color. It's like the burgundy red. I like it. Or burgundy. I like it. That's my favorite color. So that's why I wear it. So what's your favorite color? Do you even know? Like, have you ever taken the time to even question, like, what's my favorite color? I don't know, right? What did you want to be when you grew up? And is there an essence of that you can still do now? Like if you wanted to be an astronaut, was it like science and experiments and, what was it? Or adventure, right? Like what was it about that you liked? Is there an essence of that you can recapture and do? What brings you energy and what drains you? One of the reasons Health, Wellness, and Chocolate exists is because I needed, for my unfulfilled potential, when I learned this concept, was like, I needed a place to be able to go and teach women. I needed a place where I could go research and then teach women what I'm learning and help them hit the goals that they have. And that's part of the reason why Health, Wellness, and Chocolate was born, right? And so right before I came on with you at 10 o'clock every Monday, I have a live Zoom call with my girls that are in my Health and Wellness Blueprint. And so I had, read these books and had gone over the science and the literature that was in there. And we had discussion about exercise and weight loss and how to separate them out. And I gave them some examples of studies in a not a hard or complicated way, but just like, that lights me up. That brings me energy. That means that I'm doing this. I'm not like thinking about what to go eat. That's not the highlight of my day anymore. What the highlight of my day is like meeting with these women and helping them and feeling like I'm making a difference in their lives. I'm helping them with a problem that may have been a lifelong problem. And that is so satisfying that no amount of a ice cream blizzard can ever be, right? And so your job is to figure out what your potential is, what lights you up, so that food isn't not a big deal, right? You're like that little chicken. You got it in you. You just have to unearth it and discover it and be intentional and go for it. You're my little chicken, right? So your job as an adult is like, examine your life, examine your thoughts, examine your feelings, pay attention, stop living on autopilot, like be here, be present, take every thought captive and look at it. Is it even true? Are the things you're telling yourself even true? Is it even based in reality, or is it just like a thought you just think over and over again because it's a habit, right? Challenge them. Really start paying attention to what drains you and what lights you up or brings you energy. What can you contribute to this world so that when you're gone, the world is a better place because you were here. when your life is full of food, and when your life is full, food can resume its natural place. So instead of being this in the center stage, or like the only joy you get, like I am always going to go out to lunch on my lunch break and eat, because that's the best part of my day, right? Like when food is the best part of your day, your life is definitely full of frustration. And so your job then, as someone who wants to improve their health and who wants to create a life where food isn't the most important thing, you need to identify what your unmet potential is. Because once you do that, then food will resume its natural place. Instead of being the center stage and the focus and the only joy in your life, it can become what it was meant to be. And that's just nourishment, right? And then the drama goes away. The like, oh, I ate this and I shouldn't have, and I didn't, like, it, all that dissipates, because you're just not, it's not your focus anymore. It's not that your life doesn't revolve around what you're going to be eating every day or every hour or every few hours, or should you be eating this? Should you not be eating this? I can't believe I did eat that. Now I have to go work out, or are you blaming myself or whatever? Like, your life is just going to move on. And you may even be like those crazy people who forget to eat because your life is so awesome. I actually met one, and I want to interview her because I can't believe, like, she's actually passed out and had to go to the hospital because she's been so busy she forgets to eat. They actually exist. It fascinates me. Totally fascinates me. But that's another podcast for another day. So finding ways to meet your potential, right? Exciting challenges, okay? And it's not like it's going to be an easy thing. It might be harder than living on autopilot. In fact, it probably will be. But what is better for you? Being intentional about your life, using the gifts and talents that you have been endowed with to make the world a better place, or just sitting and eating endless amounts of ice cream on your couch every night, right? Like, what's a better life to live? Yeah, it might be scary. Yeah, it might be hard, right? And it's not going to be easy, but there's carrying around 50 extra pounds everywhere is not easy. Having to take your blood sugar every day is not easy. Sitting around a doctor's office for hours at a time is not easy. Worrying about a potential stroke or a heart attack because your blood pressure is so high is not easy either. So really, you get to choose which not easy or which hard you want to deal with. Do you want it to be hard while you're actually trying to live in your potential that you have inside of you and making the world a better place? Or do you want to live in the hard of just living a very small life with maybe little blips of food strung along that bring you a little bit of pleasure? Okay? You have to make that choice, because it is a choice. Life is always going to have challenges in it, and you can endure them. You can endure them while you step into the person that you were meant to be, or you can stay stagnant and frustrated. And like I said, both are not always the most comfortable thing. But if you're at least striving to get that potential met, you're growing. You're becoming a person who you might not have even realized you could be, and you're learning and you're being challenged and you're growing your brain. And it's like, if you're striving for just life to be easy and stress-free, you're not really living, right? Life is meant to be full of things, and not always like good Pollyanna things, but if you're always just striving for life to be simple and easy, you will probably tend to be very frustrated with life because you're not taking any chances of meeting your unfulfilled potential. And then your job is once you start to step out and start living in this fulfilled and start fulfilling the potential that you have, then you can learn how to fully meet challenges and be willing to feel those feelings instead of trying to shrink from it and hide and then use food to calm you down and sedate you. Right? You have choices in your life. And so it's who do you want to be in a year from now, 2 years from now, right? Do you want to still be stuck on the couch eating those big things of Blizzards, thinking they're amazing and having that be the best part of your day? Or do you want to start being you know what? 50 pounds a day on my body is hard. I don't want that kind of hard. I don't want my life to only have in it food. There's more to life than just eating, and I want to figure out what that part is. And if that resonated with you, join me inside the Health and Wellness Blueprint. We go over all these things. It's so much more than just like what you should. In fact, I don't tell you what you should eat, but it's like so much more than that. There's so much thought work. There's so much stuff to uncover and unearth about yourself. And that's why even the workbook that I have, it's called the User's Manual. It's all about you and your user manual, right? I'll show you how to do the thought downloads, how to identify your strengths, how to fulfill your potential, how to figure out what makes you tick, what lights you up, what your style is, what you like, what you dislike, all those things. We go into all of that, and you can get started right away for only $1. I've tried to make the hurdle as low as possible. So like for $1, you get to download the user manual. You get access to the ebook, How to Eat Like Your Skinny Friends. You get access to the 9 foundational classes that are like the core backbone or the core of the whole health and wellness blueprint. And then if you decide to stay, if you decide you don't like it, that's it. After 7 days, your access just goes away. But if you decide you want to stay, I offer a really nice incentive for you. And then you have access to like the advanced weight loss concepts. We meet every Monday at 10 o'clock. You can ask me questions. I'll answer them. We talk live. Like you have an advocate. You don't have to discover all these things on your own. I'm in your corner. I'm on your side. And I could show you how to get to where you want to be. All right. So thank you for joining me today. I can't wait to see you next week. I hope you have an awesome day. Take care. Bye-bye.